WTO is associated with long talks, various tariffs, customs quotas, imports and exports, as well as with other terms which our consumers sometimes do not understand. The task of WTO market program is to break all the barriers between buyers and sellers because we know everything about the prices. The demand for clothes is growing all over the world, and people's requirements to these goods also strengthen along with the rising purchasing power. As a result, manufacturers found themselves in a tangled situation. They have to renew collections up to 10 times a year. It should be done in a short period of time and on a regular basis. Moreover, it is necessary to use high-tech fabrics, which should be durable, protective and breathable. For many decades, cotton textiles have been among the 10 best-selling goods in the world. How do things stand with this material in Kazakhstan, and what changes did the textile domestic market undergo over the last years? You will know about it from the following story. Over the last year, the overall production of light industry goods, especially of cotton fabrics and ready-made clothing in Kazakhstan, rose by more than 15%. This was possible, first of all, thanks to the national programs such as Business Roadmap 2020, Exporter 2020 and others. Such government-sponsored measures allow many entrepreneurs to travel abroad and organize exhibitions. The government subsidizes exhibit spaces. As a result, our exports grow. National Agency for Export and Investment, Kazakh Invest, assists the promotion of Kazakhstan-made goods at foreign markets. Over the last year, Kazakhstan doubled exports of its clothes. Only this year, 6 enterprises benefited from the government-sponsored programs. In 2015, exports of textile goods made in Kazakhstan amounted to $108.5 million. In the first half of 2016, textile and textile goods exports made up $52.5 million. In comparison with the same period of the last year, it increased by 18.3%. Exports of clothes and clothes accessories increased 2.4 times from $9 to $21.5 million. However, there are some problems related to the promotion of homemade goods on the domestic market. The main reason for that is an intense competition of Kazakhstan with the Chinese and Turkish manufacturers. Many of them deliver their goods to Kazakhstan illegally and in such a way significantly reduce their prices. Nonetheless, the processes at the Kazakhstani customs are already changing. We hope that the accession to the WTO will give us a chance to improve this system, and we see that it is changing for the better. This is one of the measures which made it possible to increase production. Brand is a very important aspect for consumers of Kazakhstan. Therefore, the creation and promotion of domestic brands has become one of the main prospects. Nowadays, local administrations are going to create trading platforms for light industry products made in Kazakhstan. At the same time, local brand companies which built up their image during years already exist. We began to manufacture work clothing because at that moment it was a topical issue. It was not a fashion but a marketable product. Even now we manufacture work clothes for the oil and gas industry. 10 years ago, we were also making sports clothing. Work and sports clothing is produced by means of such equipment. Special machines are needed for the production of some groups of products, such as, for example, thermal underwear. Sports clothes made in Kazakhstan are in demand at the domestic market. The company also cooperates with Russia, Ukraine and some European countries. All the orders are developed by designers individually for each customer. This September, we opened a training center. People of all ages can come to us. We prepare designers, cutters and other specialists. Currently, there are not so many students in our center because people do not know about it. So we are waiting for new students. Currently, the designers department is finalizing a new collection of downcoats, which will be presented at the Fashion Week in Milan. This type of clothing holds much promise. Unfortunately, we import 100% of raw materials. Sports are a fashion. Because of that, manufacturing technologies are changed from year to year. We monitor all these changes. Functional raw materials are very important in manufacturing of sports clothes. Functional fabrics are difficult to produce. Working with natural materials is much easier. Kazakhstan has ample supplies of cotton and wool. The challenge now is to start the processing of these materials. This will help the country to increase their production several times and take its niche on the world textile market.
В СССР текстильная промышленность была
The
развита.
textile industry in the USSR was well developed. The country was self-sufficient in all types of raw materials, including cotton, flax, wool and others. It manufactured finished products for adults and children, as well as for home and work. Former Soviet republics inherited this industry. Presently, Central Asia is the world's largest cotton exporter and Uzbekistan is the top cotton exporter. Cotton is also grown in South Kazakhstan region. Indeed, the final price for trousers or a t-shirt, which we buy, much depends on the cost of raw materials.
Конечная цена на брюки или футболку.
For instance, the full cost of a jersey is based on the material and work. Manufacturers can add 10 to 100% for the brand. If an article was imported, sellers in Kazakhstan have to pay 10 to 20% for the delivery. Another 10 to 20% is various duties. VAT makes up 12%. As a result, the initial cost of an article can rise up to 50%. Other costs include space lease, storehouses and trade outlets, and remuneration of sellers' labor. Sometimes this chain includes a regional distributor who can charge for his or her services from 20 to 50%. As a result, the price of an item in the chain from the manufacturer to the customer increases several times. In order to cut costs, a customer can order clothes in internet shops. In that case, there will be no need to pay for space lease and seller's work. However, the cost will include the delivery charge.
У каждой одежды есть...
Each piece of clothing has its wearing time. Interestingly, this time is divided into the fashionable and wearing out periods. In other words, clothing remains up to date and fashionable less time that it preserves a proper appearance. The fashionable period lasts on the average about 2 years. For example, the service life of a men's suit, taking into account all cleanings and dry cleanings, can reach 5 years, of sports clothes up to 6 years, and for clothes made of jeans fabric, only about 3.5 years.
С половиной лет.
In order to understand what kind of fabric we deal with, we should burn it slightly. It is very important to see how the fabric behaves while burning and what smell it evolves. Cotton burns like paper, leaves ashes and does not produce any smell. Natural silk somewhat jumps up above a burning match and does not emit smell. Wool rolls into a ball and produces a smell of burnt fluff. And synthetic materials melt instead of burning. Densely populated eastern countries, Egypt, Persia and China were the top textile exporters until the 18th century. Back at the time, the Great Silk Road was also flourishing. But after the emergence of new inventions, the center of the textile industry moved to Europe. European states imported raw materials from their colonies and after that sold finished goods to the same countries at the prices several times higher. Currently, the center of the global textile industry is located in the Asia-Pacific region with a plenty of its own raw materials and cheap labor. The global market of clothes and textile goods consists of companies which produce fiber and yarn, textile producers, clothing manufacturers and retailers. This market demonstrates a 4 to 5% growth annually. The increase in production of non-woven materials can be observed all over the world. In 2011, the world textile market made up approximately $3 trillion and in 2016, $3.7 trillion. 57% of the market is ready-made clothing and knitted fabrics, 18% is mechanical fabrics, 16% is leather and furs, and 7% is carpets and rugs. The key players in the production and marketing of textile are the United States, EU countries and China. The annual profit of the US textile industry is about $60 billion. In Europe, it reaches about $100 million. According to the World Trade Organization, exports of Chinese materials in 2013 was estimated at $284 billion. Agreements on textiles and clothing have been the focus of attention of experts from the World Trade Organization since the day of its foundation, various countries many times imposed import restrictions in order to protect their domestic markets. For example, in the US, the textile industry is one of the most protected sectors. But thanks to the WTO, in the early 2000s, the countries which used the quota system, the US, the EU countries, Canada and Turkey, had to abolish those quotas in respect of all textile goods. I wish you economic and quality purchases.